Hey, Janine, we're live.
Hey Debbie, welcome everyone to SD Spooky Adventures, Ghostly Tales with Janine and Debbie. I'm Janine,
And I'm Debbie.
and so tonight we're going to talk about a location here in San Diego, just above Old Town. And a lot of people actually don't know that it's up there.
That's true because I didn't know for a long time. And, and I guess these houses that we're going to be talking about were relocated.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So the area we're talking about is Heritage Park. There are many Victorian homes from the 1800s that were relocated from other parts of San Diego, including Sherman Heights and Bankers Hill, as well as our Gaslamp Quarter, in order to save them because the city, as they were making changes and extending the roads to, accommodate the population and the new vehicles, had slated them to meet the wrecking ball. How sad is that?
Um, we love those old houses and we love our historic stuff, but San Diego has a history of doing some crazy stuff to monuments, graveyard stones, headstones, and houses.
Yeah, it would have been really sad to see them go, but luckily for us, there was a nonprofit called Soho that was able to actually step in, and they procured some of them, purchased others, and they were given land just above Old Town San Diego to relocate these buildings to. In 1971 is when they moved the first two buildings, which would have been Temple Beth Israel, the second largest synagogue in all of California, and the first synagogue here in San Diego, and our Sherman Gilbert house was also moved at that same time.
I went up there, but it's been probably a year because you do like what's popular, Day of the Dead. Let's go to the cemetery. Let's look at the little things of the dead people that are under the road and all these fun things, and the Whaley House. But I happened to wander up or get lost or whatever it was, and they're beautiful because they're kind of up on a hill. But I remember a story that we told about that area. Was that the area where the witch was?
Actually, that's even further up where the Presidio is.
Oh, okay. At
Yeah.
some point, that's an awesome story. And but all these houses, I was looking. There's a lot of sites on the internet talk about their Pacific ghost and the hauntings in there. Do they allow like investigations?
So the houses that are up there, there's only the temple that's open to the public, and then two other houses, the McConaughey house and the Senless Cottage. Um, the rest of them were deemed to be unsafe. So approximately 2008-ish, they did shut them down to the public. So we couldn't go inside them anymore. Many of them at the time had been gift shops and bookstores and kind of walk through museum type situations, as many of them had actually been left fully furnished.
You know what? They need to get, is that under the state or county or city? Who does this? Because they need to get money together and fix them.
So it's a county park, and here's the cool thing. In 2021, they did have a meeting on Heritage Park, and they are going to fix them up, and they will eventually reopen as bed and breakfast, gift shops,
Oh,
that type of thing.
bed and breakfast. We are there. We are there.
Yes,
Oh,
we
I love
are.
it. It's still, I even want to go to the Del Coronado Hotel and I want to stay in that haunted room there. And we're right here. We need to go and stay in these haunted rooms. I will stay there. I will stay, we won't sleep. We'll stay awake. It'll be great. Can't
That's
wait.
actually kind of my goal for my birthday in January, is to try to get a couple of us into that room for a overnight investigation. So we'll see if we can get it rented.
I am so game for that. I'll throw some money that way. That'd be great. It's always fun to go into places that we know are haunted because sometimes you go in and there's not a lot of activity. And so if you know that people see stuff and stuff happens and stuff flies across the room, we want to go there. I can't wait. That's going to be fun. And Kim
So,
wants to stay too. Kim Lunzer. Uh, I just saw her.
hi, Kim.
She stopped by my house. Hi. We've got lots of people coming in. That's great. Please share the show. Well, what is there any aggressive ghosts that have been contacted, or do you think it's just like energy there, or do you really think there's some spirits that do stuff?
So I think it's kind of a mixture. We're going to talk about three of the most active locations there. Now, I wouldn't say negative, but the Christian House does have an interesting spirit there. Christian House was built in 1889 by a man named Harlan Timberlake, or Christian Timberlake, and he was an abstract company owner at the time. Now, the house that he built is a Queen Anne style typical home, indicative with its little, turret tower. I call it the Rapunzel house. And then it definitely is very decorative and unique, as they have little wooden tiles that were placed one by one surrounding the entire house, which is quite stunning to see. But it has two spirits, one very benign female energy. We see a mist of a female moving on the front porch. You can actually hear her little feet tapping along as she's walking on the wood. She's also accompanied, I call her a scratch and sniff ghost, because she's accompanied by the scent of lavender when she makes her presence known. But the other spirit is just a little different. And I actually have video footage of it walking behind me while I'm giving a tour, which will get posted later on tonight. But this one, we call him the Watcher. So I'm sure many of you guys have seen something like move from the corner of your eye, and you saw somebody over there. But when you turn and look, there's absolutely nobody there.
Mm-hmm. That's true. We just the corner of your eye, and there's something that goes, and that happens at my house a lot when I'm looking upstairs. Like you go, wait, what was that?
Who's up there? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. A lot
Well,
of
this
times they
Watcher,
don't want to be known. A lot of times they want to be fast and stealth.
I feel like they're watching us, right?
Yeah,
They don't
that's
want to be
right.
watched. They want to watch us.
There you go.
But the Watcher is very similar to this, with one exception. When you turn to see what moved past you, oh my goodness, he is there. And he is this dark shadow figure. So no facial expressions or, facial features on him. He does appear to be wearing what looks like a fedora cap. And people who have experienced him say that all those feelings of fight or flight kick in. Usually,
Oh,
flight is the one that
yeah.
wins.
Hmm.
They also feel all those sensations that you would feel in an anxiety attack. So,
Oh,
lightheaded, dizzy, shaky, upset stomach, and the intense urge to flee the building and never return.
oh, we've had some of those people. On a few things, just go back to their car, exit the building, and get out. Um, yeah, sometimes that's weak in the knees and things like that. When you say fedora, that reminds me of the 10th Avenue Theater where we went, where the painting down in the basement had the hat man, and I believe he had a fedora on. And so, because they're fast, I see like stringy black stuff that goes. It's not like I see whole figure and outline and what they're wearing in color. I usually see fast black kind of strings go like that. And so what do we think about a ghost that's just watching? Just a looky loo?
Right. Yeah. I mean, he seems to kind of fit the shadow figure type thing, where they just don't really interact with us, but they're there, kind of lurking. But the difference is that anxiety sensation that he causes people to feel. Many people that have experienced him literally refuse to return to the house. It was a restaurant at one point in time. Staff that experienced him would quit on the spot and not return, just from those sensations.
Oh
Now, is
gosh,
he
Janine, you and I would be like, "Come on, bring it on,
bring it
come
on?
on, everybody, come over. What are you ready for? Get back here. We'll eat
Yeah.
here. We'll stay overnight. It's
I
amazing.
definitely, when they open that up, if it's a bed and breakfast, because it used to be in the 90s, it used to be a bed and breakfast. So if it does reopen as a bed and breakfast, we are right there.
Oh
But I
my
don't necessarily
gosh,
think that it's a negative energy, and it doesn't harm people. So there's that.
right?
It does
Yeah.
not, other than to make you feel uncomfortable by staring at you, it doesn't interact with you in any other way. So no scratching or biting or any of the weird stuff that can happen with spirits. What I'm wondering from you is what your opinion is. Do you think it's a typical shadow figure, or do we think that we maybe have a hat man here?
Hmm. I'm going to go with the Hat Man. And my thing is that impression of anxiety, that impression of making people feel so uncomfortable that this is getting into their space. And we've talked about this before when the spirit went through me and you have that energy. But I remember when we were in the small theater, getting weak in the knees and people, just wanted to get, I mean, they just clamored to get out of that room. And so I really gonna go, since the fedora to me is always the thing when you're dealing with the Hat Man. And so I think so. And especially if he's a watcher, because the one at the 10th Avenue Theater, what was he doing? He was hanging out and watching. He wasn't really doing anything bad. He was just moving about. And I think he wanted a story being told. He wanted that to come out, why he was there. But I would say if he's watching, he came along, he got attached to the place, and he's just watching what's going on. And again, we have to put the Hat Man and the shadow people in a whole different category than spirits or ghosts. you know so the deal is that here you have this energy, maybe another dimension or something like that. And so watching and curious, and they like to stay in within the building or sometimes within the basement or the room. So I'm going to go with that. And it's just because I've known enough when people say that they've seen something with a hat that we've got to not, that is kind of unmistakable. We've got a hat man there. And I have never bumped into a hat man that was aggressive, or had any kind of agenda that was, scary or angry or anything like that. So people, I think it's just a bad reputation when it comes to Hat Man. To myself, I don't know what you
Yeah.
think about that, but I get that.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that we probably are dealing with a hat man here because shadow figures rarely leave people feeling those sensations. Whatever this is a little bit stronger energy wise, to give that paranoia or that fear, anxiety type sensation.
Kim has a
So
good
I
question.
go
She
ahead.
says, "What is Hat Man?" You want me to take it?
Yeah, go right ahead.
So, Kim, sometimes we see dark entities. Janine and Sean encountered one in a portal. So that kind of tends to let us know that it's probably coming from somewhere else, another dimension. And so people see it. We saw them a lot at Dearborn Cemetery, right? I mean, they've got their own little side to the graveyard, and they're all running around there. And so, because they're all dark, there's no light going through them. Then we've got to go. They People have seen them in portals or go through portals. So I generally tend to think they're from another dimension. And so, what are they coming here? Well, because they can, and because maybe some of them are explorers and they want to watch and they want to know more about us. Maybe they want to interfere a little bit or whatever. So, there could be different kinds of them, like shadow people, and some of them, for whatever reason, we have to say they wear a hat, and maybe they have a different purpose, but it really is kind of up in the air as in speculation on everybody's part as to why they're there. But like Janine and I said, we haven't really run into one that was, what we call a dark entity, an evil or a demon or anything like that. They're not even in that class. So that's what I think.
Yeah, and I think that there's, like you said, varying opinions on what are and what they do, but I've never experienced one that has been, violent or aggressive with us. So, uh, and as you said earlier, the only time I've ever seen a hat man is within a facility or a building. So when I share later the video of this hat man walking behind me, he's behind the curtain inside the building that's behind me when you see him walk past. We never, absolutely never see him outside of the building,
Now, where
just
can
with us.
everybody see this? Where and when?
This is the Christian house that's up in Heritage Park in Old Town San Diego. So just above the main part of Old Town. It's called Heritage Park.
Where is the video going to be that you have, or the photo,
Oh,
or whatever?
yep. I'm going to go ahead and post that video up on SD Spooky Adventures page, as well as we'll send it on over to you, Debbie, so you can add it to Psychic Fixes as well.
Okay, so that's going to be Facebook, correct?
Facebook.
Okay, I can't wait. I can't wait. I think everybody's going to be excited to see that. We love when we get things on tape and we get audios, the EVPs and all that stuff. It's really exciting. So what other ghosts are up there that we can talk about?
So here's a fun one. The house is called the Burton House. It was built in 1893. It's a classic Renaissance revival style home. So it's a little bit more simplistic than some of the other ones that are up there, but it is absolutely gorgeous, kind of New Orleans feel to it. And the man who owned it was a man named John Burton. Now, he was a military physician and he ended up retiring here in San Diego. His wife ran a tea house out of this home, and that's the ghost that we experience is women chatting. You can hear the teacups being clinked and you can hear them being stirred. And it just seems to be that house has held on to all that energy of the lovely tea parties that were held inside of it.
That is so cool, especially when you can hear the clinking, the spoons going around and all that. So that sounds like it's, energy, like you said, more than ghosts hanging out, their energy of what was happening in that house. And usually you can figure that out if a ghost hasn't gotten in your face and looked at you or communicated or is doing something extraordinary and they seem like they're attentive to you. That's a spirit. Here we go with the ghosts and the spirits. But when it's imprinted energy there, it just maybe that was just a sweet happy time and that really good energy got really put in there and is staying there so that it's repeating and you guys can hear that. Do they have EVPs on that somewhere?
So, as far as I know, nobody has captured EVPs. It's just kind of a personal experience that many people have had there. But what's really interesting about the house is it has the residual energy or the residual haunting that we believe is just an imprint of something that took place over and over again. But it also does have spirits that will communicate with you. So, we've had a woman on the front porch talk to some of the children on my tours, telling them there's something in the attic.
Oh,
Now, I want to know what's in the attic. So when they start fixing the house, I'm actually going to talk to the workers and say, "Hey, what did you guys find in the attic?" Because I kind
yeah.
of want to know.
Oh,
And we also get knocks. If you knock, people will get knocks back from inside the house.
oh, that's awesome. In my house, the knocks were giant bam, bam, bams. and
Well, I will say I had about 15 teenagers on my tour one night. I had a group of 30, and it was about 15 teenagers up there on the porch. Two of them knocked on the front door, and something knocked on the window next to them. And it was like a game of leapfrog as they were trying to get down off of that porch over top of each other.
that's always fun to have the teenagers there. Like, oh yeah, 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 yeah. And all of a sudden they're in their car going home. And
Right?
you
They're
know
like,
what?
"Get me out of here."
It's really sad because and I know like Chris Oliver and Sean Parvar and you and I, we are not afraid of anything and we really want to experience that. So to me, it's a little sad when people want to go home or if they're really scared because it's to me like, why did you come?
Right.
It's like if you watch the old, the ghost hunting shows where, they run and they start running with the camera and doing all this. I'm like, turn around and run the other way. That's where you're supposed to be going. That's why you're here. But I can understand
I,
it's unnerving.
I've had a few moments where I'm like, okay, I should be leaving this room. But as soon as you're starting to turn, you're like, no, what am I doing? Go back in there. We got to capture this on film.
Well, yeah, because our group together is like, if we do run, you better run faster because we
Sure.
would only do that if we really felt there was a some kind of a dynamic or really a strong power. Because we don't need to get and Chris Oliver got punched in the stomach. She got punched and got a bruise on her stomach, and people get scratched and people get knocked down and that happened when I was leading a group, because the lady had a cane, and they tend to go, "Who can I, take out easiest?" And it would be somebody with a cane, especially with those uneven graves that we're walking over. So I
Sure.
can see where, some of them are that way. But I love the knocking. I love that trying to communicate and all of that. We love our ghost equipment, that's for sure. And we've talked to a lot of spirits that way, and I love that.
Yeah, I will say that I kind of excel at my level of crazy. So, from a child, I had an experience in the cemetery in Old Town with this old grumpy man screaming at me from the back corner of the cemetery. So, as an adult, I kind of went in a little intrepid,
Hmm.
worried about going into that corner.
Hmm.
I went back there and was asking him to be nice. He scratched me. And so the next time we went out, I was like, don't you scratch me this time. We're just here to communicate. And he bit me. And I'm talking
Oh,
like full teeth
teeth
marks
marks. Ah,
on my ribs where he bit me.
I'd be
And so
packing holy water spray. Just get me. Just try.
and so that's my level of crazy is even after being bitten, I ran back in there and we go back there every time. And I left him a shot of Jack Daniels and he's been pretty nice ever since. So I think that we've made friends over the time period, but scratched and bitten and I still kept going into that's my level of crazy.
Oh my gosh, I remember when you got scratched at Pioneer Park. Which, let's little sidebar here. I think the most haunted place that I've been is Pioneer Park in San Diego. What is it for you? Which place do you think is the most haunted? Or
So
Vic Alpine, maybe?
Alpine's actually pretty haunted, and there's things that are non-human hauntings out there as well. So like what looks like gremlins running around and laughing like Chucky. There's weird stuff out at that
That's
place.
yep.
But I would say the most haunted, and I know everybody's like, isn't it the Whaley House? Right, the
I
Whaley
don't think
House is
so.
phenomenally haunted. It
Yeah.
has stuff on a weekly basis, but I give ghost tours in the gas lamp. And to be honest with you, the most haunted place I've ever been in is the Gaslamp Museum or the Heath Davis Horton House. That's the two names that we give it.
Oh,
There's
wow.
stuff that takes place in there weekly.
Oh my gosh. So there's strong stuff in there. You feel like there's many spirits or uh they congregated because they can communicate there more or what?
So the house has been many things over the years. And one of those things was a hospital. So they were running a hospital out of it. There's hundreds of spirits that have been communicated with inside that location, names captured on EVP. They were later able to take those names and match them up to census reports of people who were in that house at some point in time. Now, I give tours down there under Haunted San Diego Ghost Tours here in San Diego. So if you guys are in San Diego, definitely come out on one of those tours because we have exclusive access, which means I actually have keys to take you guys in after hours.
Oh boy. Wait a minute. That's awesome. That's awesome. I remember when we had, could kind of go where we wanted in 10th Avenue Theater. And that was really neat because there's all kinds of little places. And I have not been, and you said that with the Horton House, I have not been there. I think it's just about time.
Well,
That'd be
Debbie,
really good.
let's set up a day for you to come out with me on my one of my next tours because
Oh, that'd be
I
awesome.
think you would love it inside there.
Yeah,
And I
and
wanted
it's fun.
to I wanted to say we have actually exciting news. So the 10th Avenue Theater has invited us back to do Terror at the 10th again this year.
Oh my
So we're going to
goodness,
have four
we should
days.
start getting that out there for everybody. Is it going to be an Eventbrite with tickets, or
Yeah,
how's that
so
going to?
we are going to do Eventbrite tickets. We'll be doing the 7th, the 13th, the 30th, and the 31st. And they're all going to be 2-hour lockdown. So you'll get a personal tour with a history lesson and ghost stories for the theater. Then we're going to move into half an hour of seance and then a half an hour of paranormal investigation before we leave the
Oh,
building. So four
th-
nights available this October. We'll get those ads up starting on October 1st.
what's always fun in there is the seances.
Yes.
Always fun, and then you have some of the ghost equipment, and you see because um, we had people. I love the murder room or the red room. And so we had ghosts in there, and then we have ghosts down the way, looking in. We have David, the ghost in the kitchen, and the 10th Avenue Art Center has two theaters in it, and it has a history of their own ghosts. A priest that hung themselves, little girl that fell down the stairs, and other, and so you can go through and they'll have the story there. But there's a lot of ghosts that come in and out. And I dealt with a suicide, a young male on the roof one day.
I remember
Sean
that
and I
night.
did.
Yeah.
So that'll be a fantastic. We've done them in the past, and it's just so much fun. And if you guys saw Michael and Jamie Mason a couple weeks ago on the show, they tell you on that show, you can go back and watch it, what happened. What happened, the crazy stuff and the ghosts there while we had one of the lockdowns. It's always fun to have a lockdown, but we do let you out if you have to go. If you have to get
And
out.
we've had a few people leave pretty early on just
Oh,
because
yeah.
the energy in there is super heavy.
Yeah. But we escort you out. It's not like we let you just go wander the 4 stories in the basement with the hat man. Um, oh, don't take the elevator, whatever you do. No.
That was terrifying. I rode in it once and once was enough for me.
Yeah,
Once
it
was
doesn't
enough.
work all the time. It's original. And what is it, a 19, what, 10, 15 building?
They
Can't quite
started
remember.
building in 1901, I think, and they didn't finish the building until like 1935 or something like that. It was like a very long period of time that they were building this church due to money situations.
And that building, except for the bottom floor, they remodeled the bathroom, and is got a most original water fountains and elevator, and most of the windows, and they have a couple stained glass windows. But it's just about the way it was over 100 years ago.
For sure. Yeah, they
And
left it pretty standard as to how it was built.
yeah. And you never know what you're gonna meet in there. Because I remember, people going into this little room and I said, "Don't go in there because there's something bad in there." And that was I don't want to say names, but this was very prominent psychic that went in there, this gentleman, older gentleman.
Right.
And he came out all messed up, scratched up and everything. And I don't
Uh,
mean to laugh. I don't mean to laugh.
right. No, but yeah.
You know,
We're usually not afraid, and so even that little theater on the second floor has given me pause where like I feel like I can't step foot in it, and it just makes me
yeah.
so angry that I force my way in, but it does something to you that tells you don't come in here, I don't want you here.
I went into the little theater many times many times, and I can see where there's a spirit or whatever and all that stuff. And so probably it might have been one of the last times that I went in. I went in, and we always have people that get like a migraine, the head
Yep.
pain. We get people weak in the knees or nauseated. And there's a bathroom right there. So we just, get out and stand in the hall. And I went in and I went, oh, shoot, don't you dare, don't you dare. And I started with the weak knees, and I started, that being not sturdy on my feet. And I was pissed off walking out of that place. But I knew I was going to land on the floor, and that's not me. But there's something going on that got to me for whatever reason. And I was like you, pissed off. Let me in or let me out, or want to stay here. This doesn't happen to me, but it did. And I
Mhm.
hate that happened. And after being composed and everything, I could go back in, but it was good to just get out of it and not have that happen. So we know that these entities can go and enter our self, our bodies, go around us and get that to come in. And if somebody's an empath, they are what they walk into and what comes into them is too overwhelming, really. So
It's a
I'm
lot of
glad I'm not.
stimulation for someone who's an empath, for sure, in that
Yeah,
location.
I'm glad
Um,
I'm not that.
yeah, I know we're probably going to go over a little bit today, but I definitely do want to talk about one more house up at the Heritage Park before we finish up today, which is our Sherman Gilbert house. Really cool history. Mr. John Sherman, he was a colonel in the Mexican American War. He actually is related to Tecumseh Sherman from the Civil War. And when the war was over here in San Diego, he was a boom developer. So he started building tons of homes. And so he built this Sherman Gilbert house here. Now, the Gilbert family is the one that purchased the house from him. So he never lived in it. He just built it. But the Gilberts lived inside it.
Okay.
And the two that ended up living in it the longest were Bess and Gertrude Gilbert. They were both sisters, and they were both really into the arts here in San Diego. So, one was classically trained on the piano. I believe that was uh, Gertrude, I think. Gertrude was classically trained on the piano. She was also into, performance art. And her sister was trained to sing. She was phenomenal with that. And she was a painter. They would actually fund arts here in San Diego because they were quite wealthy. And it was interesting because neither one of these women fit the normal mold for that time period because, back then, by a certain age, you're expected to be married, taking care of your husband, raising children. Neither one of them ever got married,
Oh, wow.
but
Hmm.
they weren't shunned because I think of their wealth is probably what did it. But they
Yeah.
also brought in people to perform in their home for guests so they could raise money for these programs. And so they had Anna Pavlova come and perform, famous
Wow.
ballerina from Russia. They had famous opera singers and jazz singers and all sorts of people come and perform for the guests at their galas and their fundraising balls, which was kind of interesting. But the number one experience haunting in that building is the sound of somebody playing the piano and somebody singing. And we do know that both women would always end the night with Gertrude on the piano and Bess singing. And so I believe that they're just continuing to do this for the guests that are coming to still visit today. This is one of the ones that will be reopened hopefully soon. And so I'm excited to see if we can get inside it and have some experiences. I'm hoping that will be a bed and breakfast. That would be awesome.
Oh, yeah. We can get a
But
lot of audios.
the house is still fully furnished. So they're actually starting to move things out of some of the rooms now so they can start painting and such inside. There used to be a piano. If you went around the side of the house, you could peek in the little mail slot and you could see the piano in there. So one night I was giving a tour and a group of people flipped it open, stuck their camera inside, were taking pictures. You could see the piano was in there but covered with a sheet to protect it. So about 5 minutes later or so, they had moved to the upstairs area where the front door is, and another group was over there taking pictures inside the mail slot. Here's the interesting thing. The second group, we were hearing the music before they walked over there. And when they stuck their camera in, were taking pictures, the sheet from the piano was pulled back to where you could see the keys. So within
Wow.
5 minutes, it went from being completely covered to you could see the piano keys. And there was nobody inside the building because it is sealed to the public currently.
Well, what we do know from this is that there's a lot of haunted house stalkers. And don't we go look in the windows and we go, try to feel energy and see what we can when we go to those places. I can't wait till they open up. That is going to be a fantastic thing. I wouldn't be surprised though. The Whaley House has like a certification for being a haunted house, right?
Yeah, so what's interesting is I guess back in the early 1900s, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce was actually going in and certifying homes as being haunted if they could find enough proof.
Oh,
That only
wow.
went on for a short period of time. So the Whaley House and the Winchester Mystery House are the only two that got that designation of being haunted, and Whaley was considered to be more haunted at the time. I will say though that Gaslamp Museum, if you guys do get a chance to come down here to our Gaslamp Quarter, activity daily, Whaley House weekly. So
Neat.
definitely, I would consider it way more haunted than the Whaley House, but unfortunately, they're not, deeming places to be haunted anymore, so it can't take over that title.
Oh gosh. Yeah, well, I want them to be more certified, haunted houses. Okay, we've got to do the Horton. We've got to. Is somebody writing down everything that is people see every day? Wouldn't that be an awesome diary
They actually have
journal?
a book inside the Horton Davis house or the Gaslamp Museum where people are writing down their experiences inside, which is super cool. I always encourage my guests on my tour to take tons of photos. And so I have tons of evidence that has been sent to me of the activity that's taking place. I also have a video from just last week where a group of people were in the living room area talking, or the parlor area. And I thought they were using flash photography because I was in the other hallway by the front door and I kept seeing flickering. But what ended up really happening was the gentleman was asking some questions. And every time he would ask a question, the light would flicker on and off like it was answering him.
Yeah, communication.
Yeah. So it
Oh
happened
gosh.
twice. It happened twice. And so he decides to have one of the females with him record. And so she's recording. You can hear us in the hallway talking about, yeah, he was asking questions. And every time he'd ask a question, the light would flicker on and off like it was answering him. And I said, oh man, I thought it was the flash. I thought they were using flash photography. That's super cool. And so we're sitting there and you can see in the background that this light is on steady and solid for probably about 30 to 40 seconds of the recording. And then someone says to him, ask it another question. And he goes, is it time to go? And the light turned off. So we were
Oh
like, okay, it's
wow.
time to go.
I love when they do that stuff, and it was like when Michael was walking out the front doors at the theater. He said, "If you're like a real ghost, then, pop my balloon," and it exploded.
Whoosh.
And I was like, "That's so cool." And he's like, "Out. Get me out of here." But yeah, they love to communicate, and they can communicate with the raps, with, the knocking, with the machines, with the lights, all that stuff. So that's really exciting. I'm glad, I would love to be able to like go through the archives of, what people, saw in that building or experience. And that's really neat. You have a cool job.
I love it. It's different every single day. And as I said, Haunted San Diego Ghost Tours, we have exclusive rights to go inside that building. So no other ghost tour here in San Diego is going to take you inside there. but we have keys and we do go inside that museum, and everything in there is from the 1850s. So it
Oh,
is just absolutely beautiful. Now, during our tours, we only do the bottom floor because of insurance purposes. But if you want to go through the entire museum, it's only $8, and it helps to keep the museum open.
oh my gosh, that's a steal. That's a
And it's the
steal.
oldest wooden structure still standing in the gas lamp. It was placed
Wow.
in the gas lamp in 1850. So you'll hear all about its history if you come on our tour. And you'll also, like I said, get to go inside and experience the energy and the ghosts that are inside there, which, by the way, are all friendly. So nothing to be afraid of, but definitely cool experiences can be had inside that building.
Well, Janine, we're looking to wrap this up, I think. We'll probably try to get some people in to talk about their ghost stories on the next show, something like that. And
Definitely.
so I'll let you in. I'll let you end it, and then I'll say goodbye to everybody.
Sounds good. Well, we do want to thank you guys for joining us on our SD Spooky Adventures Ghostly Tales with Janine and Debbie again this evening. We'll be here every Sunday for you guys at 6:30 Pacific Standard Time. If you have a ghost story or a haunted location in your area that you want to share with us, go ahead and shoot either myself or Debbie a message here on Facebook, and we will look on getting you in as one of our guests. We would love to have any of you on. So keep it spooky, my friends, and we will see you next Sunday.
How